So the same drill. We will see how do you interact with data. And if that is the case, how do you use Stata, since Stata is more of a command prompt as opposed to pointing and click, the one we're used to. But nonetheless, I will also try to marry the two so that if you're not so much into coding, you will also be comfortable with the use of the graphic user interface. Now, in terms of data entry, I can tell that the Stata is not one of the best software for you to do data entry with, but open your Stata software. Okay. The session is also recorded. And for those who have not, so I always encourage you guys to pin your Stata in the taskbar. So for those who have not pinned their Stata in the software in the taskbar, you can do that in order to make it easier for you to always access the software. I'm presenting my screen. I hope all of you, you're now in a position to see. Now, let's talk about the interface. And I will close down all the interface because not at all time when you're given this software, you will have all the relevant windows open. So, of course, we said this one is more of commands, and we will be writing our commands at the command section. So down here where you're seeing command, so the first interface that you must have, and that is where you'll be writing your code or commands. If you go to the Windows section, this is where you can be able to add other relevant windows that you need. And review window is a window that you might want to have. What is the role of review window? Every time you write a code or all the commands that you have, they will be recorded here at the review window. So in an event that you want to go back and maybe review what you have done, or maybe you get an error, you don't have necessarily to write the same code again. But if you go to the review window, you'll be able to see a list of all the codes and commands that you have used before. Now let's talk about the color. Every time you execute a command and it's a success, it will be black in color here. But when you see that your codes are red in color at the review window, then it means either you have a syntax error or there's something that the software doesn't understand. So you have no choice but to go back and review. I think that's the essence of review window. We also need what you call variable window. and envision variable window as variable view. So all the variables that we are going to have, you can be able to see them from the variable window. And on the right side, this is what we call variable window. We also need a property window. So just go to the window side and select properties. I believe most of you are now seeing something like this. I think when you first open your software, this is the interface that you will encounter. And like I said, not at all time you will be able to see something like this. So in an event that the windows are not there during your interview session, or when maybe you're interacting with this software for the first time, you should know how to go about that. Now let's jump into data entry, and I'm going to use a case study, or I'm going to come up with a simple survey. And with this survey, I will use that to demonstrate on how to do data entry using Stata. So let's use an example. I want to do a study, and I decided to do a study at the University of Nairobi, and I'm targeting students. And among the information that I want, first I want to get the registration number, or a way of identifying them. So of course, every time you're doing any study, you should have something like a serial number or name, or a way of identifying your respondent. So with this study of mine, I will be using some ID. Okay, let's take it home. I'm doing a study, just creating a survey so that we use that to demonstrate how to perform data entry. And I want to have ID as a way of identifying my respondent. I would have their names. I also want to have their gender. I also want to have their religion, the course that they're doing, and lastly, I want to ask on life satisfaction. So let me just have it on the comment section. So my first variable, I want it to be ID. The second one, I want to have name of that student. The third one, I want to have gender. After gender, religion. After religion, course that the student is doing. And lastly, I want to know about life satisfaction. Like I said, this is just a form. And for those who are here, you know very well, before you even do data entry, you must come up with a questionnaire. So if this is a form or a questionnaire that you're using to collect the data, then you will know that after you have collected your data during the fieldwork, then you have no choice but to come and code. So that is where we're going to start and see how do we put these variables audio is improved. Just in case it's worse, please, you can still inform me. So I was explaining on the second variable, which is name. And I said for name, because the software by default understands numerics, then you have no choice but to inform that the second variable in this case, which is the name of the respondent, is not a numeric, but it's a string. And the command that you will use to do that is str. And the rule is str should be lowercase because it's a command. Now, 30 is the number of characters that can be accommodated in this variable name. And I want you to relate with the, what are we calling it in SPSS? Is it width? Recall when we're talking about width in SPSS, so it restricts the number of characters in a response. So this is the same drill we're doing here, but str and 30 should be combined and then have a space, and then the name of the variable is name. After name, I will have gender, and this time, even though I know gender is a string variable, which is male and female, but I don't have to define, or I don't have to introduce again str, because during data entry, I will just key in the values 1 and 2, 1 and 2. So for gender, I'll just have it as gender, and I'll use the values of 1 and 2 to represent male and female. After gender, I think we said we should have the religion. Again, with religion, we will assign groupings. Let's say let the value of 1 represent a Christian, let the value of 2 represent a Muslim, let the value of 3 represent, let's say, someone who doesn't, let's say a pagan, or someone who doesn't go to church. I hope that's the meaning. After religion, I want the course, and the same drill, we will assign values to the different grouping of courses. You can say let 1 represent economics, 2 represent statistics, 3 represent maths, and so forth. After course, I want to have a variable life, which basically denotes life satisfaction. And again, I'll have 3 levels. Either someone is very satisfied with the life, they are just satisfied, which is neutral, and then less satisfied. So I'll have an ordinal approach of 3 groupings. Now, I also want to teach you 2 things. One is, assuming you had a variable, let's say variable age, which was part of the variable that you were supposed to create it, but maybe you forget to key in when you're coding all the variables. So later we'll see how do you add a new variable into your data set. That is one. We'll also look on how to add cases. So assuming maybe you had 20 responses and you want to add the 21st person, then we'll also see how to do that. Now, how do we execute commands in Stata? Just press enter, and immediately you do that, you realize that there are some variables that you can now see at the variable view section. If you go and look at the review window, you'll also see the code that you've used to generate that. And if you remember, I said review window, when you see your codes in black, then it means whatever you have executed is a success. And we can attest to that by looking at the variable view. Now, after you have coded your variable, the only thing that the software can accept from now moving forward is the observation or the cases. There's nothing else you can do. Okay. So what you need to understand is coding your variables and doing data entry, you have to do them back to back. There's nothing you can do in between here. So assuming the first respondent ID is 111, I want the name to be George. Space George is a male. Space George is a Christian. space 1 to mean George is doing economics, and then 3 to mean George is very satisfied with his life. I will press enter, and as you can see at the results window, so this in between here, this is where we're going to see all our results, and you can see one entry has been registered. It says 11 George 113. So of course our data set doesn't look like this, but we'll be able to see what is also happening at the back end. I will go to the second respondent, 222. Let me have it Hassan. In terms of gender, Hassan is a male. Religion, I can say Islam. Well, I think Muslim. Muslim is Islamic religion. Muslim is the person. Islam, and then course, we can say 2 to mean they're doing mathematics. And then I can have 1. Hassan is not satisfied with their life, so he is less satisfied. As you can see now, I'm prompted, and the software says Islam cannot be read as a number. So that means during data entry, I've skipped the part of, let's see what, let's do it again. 222. And then I'll have Hassan as the name. After Hassan, I'll say 1 to mean is a male. Space. So there should also be there should always be a space between your entries. So gender 1, religion, I will have 2. I think that is what I was missing. We're not in the religion, but and then later is when we're going to now same way we did. We use the values, and then later we're going to Islam, A, then 3 satisfied. I think let me create a response. Female. I can have like the last. Let me call her Mohammed. Mohammed is a Muslim. And of course, I can have 4 to be in statistics. And then satisfaction, I can have 2. Good. So I believe by now we're getting the drill of data entry. And like I said, nobody uses Stata to do data entry. If you are having, let's say, a questionnaire with something like 20 questions, and each question maybe has a response of 5 and above, you realize it will be more tiresome for you to do what I'm doing now. And it's just you do data entry. So what happens once you're done with entering your observation? Now you need to communicate to your software and tell the software that I'm done with data entry. Right? I say, once you are done with inputting your observation, the software needs to be prompted when you want to start using other code. Confirm my audio.